Hello, hello, hello. So we're back. We're at it with a list out of Japan, starting our ladder climb in February. So far, I've played 0 ranked games, been paid off very heavily in events, which has been real nice. Um, quick adjustments to this list in the land base. The list I was sent had all fast lands, did not have ley lines out of the sideboard, which I think that I'm liking now, but it's not necessary. Simplifying decision trees, playing the mirror pool, and of course, formidable speaker. This list is on a Lush Oasis instead of an Ishkana, which is less enjoyable to actually play with, but it works out pretty well. Um, we are on the play here against Valagad Sanctuary. Hidden Strings is kind of tough. Being on the play is very important, and this deck does not appear to be playing Bant for Strict Proctor. So all good things, all good signs. Um, Stock Up is not a card we want to spend our time on, but at any point a Scapeshift here should win us the game. Not finding it here, not finding a Boseiju either. Those are the two cards we're really looking for. Boseiju is very good interaction in the early turns against Hidden Strings. Being able to destroy the Thespian stage after they invest mana into turning it into a Lotus Field is quite a strong effect. Um, Opponent has the Grazer to kick them ahead of turn, and they are threatening to try to win the game next turn. Might be a little bit tough, but they might be able to do it. Playing the Stock Up here, big error from me. Should have played out the Echoing Deeps first, but we actually messed this up about as badly as we could have. So after casting the Stock Up, realizing that I don't have the green to be able to hold up the Seiju for when they try to convert the Thespian stage, I figure I just need to play at the Vestige and run it out. After I channeled the Seiju, I realized that I could have still saved it by playing Echoing Deeps to copy my opponent's Boseiju, which would have given me the green on their turn thanks to the reduction for the legendary creature. So instead, I gave my opponent an impulse and also set myself back 1 turn. So I'm setting them back a turn, but also setting myself back a turn, playing up the Vestige and postponing this Lumra. Um, all in all, not a very good outcome. Uh, Thankfully, opponent has to play a Vibrance in order to get the Thespian stage, and they just copy it, and then we are paid off very, very heavily for drawing the Scapeshift. It's often better to be lucky than it is to be good, and here we were. We were bailed out by our deck from our errors. Quick note on Bossing Say here. So Bossing Say is one of the ads that I did from this list. It can help quite a bit in regard to just the number of clicks you need to do in order to kill your opponent. But that of course requires you to have a combat step. You cannot kill your opponent in their combat step when they play a monstrous race to present lethal, for instance. Quick sideboard notes, we don't really have anything here. Just Heritage Reclamation in case it matters, and call it good. I'm not playing a bunch of counter magic at this time, just to Shauna's Tidebinder to try and counter the Thespian Stage activation. Stock Up is a good card, but also a weak card. We are not expecting to have a ton of extra time here, so we just kind of gotta make our choices and try to race. Which, starting on our Royal Grazer, Gray turn 2 Wandering Minstrel is exactly where we want to be. Ditch a Speaker, we don't need more than one of those. Drawing the Bear, we didn't need that either. But we're really going to keep any land on top with this Hedge Maze. Finding a Quarter Carpel is good. Now we're in a spot where any Lotus Field, Coming Vestige, any land off the top of this turn gives our opponent the good old turn 3 kill. which is exactly why we are playing this deck. Um, the ability to race basically anything in the format is really a huge driver for me enjoying it so much. Hidden Strings, the reason I don't enjoy that deck as much is because it does not have the ability to race um, any other deck in the format. But here we're going to play a Bear to make the Scapeshift bigger, and then it's pretty trivial to win from here. We can shift into a Mirror Pool, we can shift into a bunch of Lotus Fields, we can shift into an Arid Archway and an Otawara. There's 100 ways to skin this cat. But, yeah, I assume everyone knows it from here. But, yeah, Hidden Strings is tough when they're on Strict Proctor, because if they have a slightly slower draw, that card just turns off your whole deck, and you don't have good answers to it. But just the regular Cynic list, if they're not on a bunch of Spell Pierces, sometimes you don't get caught by Spell Pierces either. You're able to just get on through. So over to the next match here, we are up against Mono White. I am in the preferred position of not knowing very much about my opponent's deck, because they did not have an opportunity to show me very much, is where I like to be the best. And this game is just absolutely gross. So on the draw, we play Terminal Grazer, turn 2 Minstrel, they Skyclave the Minstrel, we draw a Crumbling Vestige for turn, cast a Splunking. If we hit a Crumbling Vestige or a Lotus Field, we kill our opponent on the spot through that Skyclave, and we do. So pretty straightforward, very easy turn 3 on the draw. Nothing the opponent could have really done in this instance. These Taxes decks don't have excellent tools most of the time. They're just kind of leaning on their effects lining up, fortunately, or having a Rest in Peace after sideboard in order to be able to do anything productive. But in this match, nothing our opponent could have really done. As you can tell, I'm playing on mobile. I will have notifications on everything silenced for the next round of recordings that we do. But yeah, this list has been very impressive to me. I've done 2 7-1s in best of 1 events leading into this here. Consistently seeing fast kills and the resiliency of having the 4 formidable speakers has been quite nice. In conjunction with the stock up, you're less likely to run out of cards, which is one of the problems that Speaker has, is you go into a longer game where redundant copies don't necessarily pay off because you need to be discarding cards to them, or you just can't have both the 6th mana off of the land drop and also the Speaker. Sometimes, so you end up in some awkward spots, but stock up does kind of help that out. Here we're going to keep this hand because it plays a Minstrel on turn 2. But we do want some help. Starting town counts as help. Allowing us to keep the Crumbling Vestige to accelerate the bear 1 turn is always great. We are hoping that our opponent is trying to be a little bit taxy, a little bit Haiti, maybe a High Noon, maybe an Archon of Numeria. Instead, they've got some removal spells for our guys, which is not exactly where they would prefer to be most of the time, but, you know, we'll just keep playing other stuff. Play Minstrel. Don't know whether the Otawara or the Seiju will be better, and seeing the ossification for the Seiju is going to be used at some point, but whether it's used to bring back the Minstrel or something else later, I'm not sure. Passing the turn here, planning on just using the Seiju on the Minstrel so that we can play a Lotus Field into a bear. playing an Archon of Emeria, and we get to do the thing. Pretty straightforward from here, too. The only concern I had going in here is Marshmallow Worldly Light, or some other instant speedway to kill the Minstrel. There it is. Them not casting the upkeep really either meant that they just forgot to set stop, or they just didn't respect the way they, oh, it's funny. The way the deck can accelerate forward. So we're going to play the bear, get our lands back, set ourselves up, and we're so extremely far ahead at this point. We've got the stock up, we've got the port for the Minstrel. If the bear dies, then we can port that back instead. And our opponent is running out of options very quickly. Another ossification for the bear. Kind of is a little bit annoying, but we can stock up, and hitting either a Beseju or an Arid Archway will get us the bear back. Passing the turn here, we can either Tidebinder the Planeswalker, which I'm not certain I want to do yet. You can see I'm thinking about it, or we can port. And I'm leaning into just activating port here. So we let the Elspeth activation go ahead, take the damage, and then we activate the port here. If we hit a bear, we're in the money. If we don't, then we bring back a Minstrel, and then we can work on getting back a bear later, but we hit a bear and an Archway, and just get everything here. So we're going to play up Splunking as our one spell for the turn, and then we can use Otawara to bounce the Ossification, get it back a second bear, and still have mana to either port or activate Mirror Pool. Here we're just seeing if the opponent gets one spell per turn currently, seeing if they want to use that spell to save their Planeswalker, and knowing that since our opponent only gets one spell, we can just let them lock themselves out of their Archon of Emeria, because we can win at instant speed from here. There's Lauren, and now we're going to kill our opponent in response. Bounce the Ossification, get back the bear. Note, that is not casting a spell, it's just activating the ability of Otawara. And then I get tired of trying to click around this Lauren and just decide to spend my one spell per turn to Shana's the Lauren and kind of no concerns about anything. Clean, easy. We're going to not do too many game actions here. We're just going to set our opponent up to be dead on our turn, not worried about doing an extra 3 to 5 minutes of clicking to have them done on the spot. Just being careful not to deck ourselves out. Our opponent does not have any more spells, there's nothing they can do about anything. We get to just have our way with them here. Bringing back the Seiju, setting ourselves up, counting how many cards we have left in our deck. And then I think we activate the ports to put as much power into play as we can, and then we have Bossing Say and Minstrel activations to present 1,000,000 damage next turn. But very easy, very clean. Nothing to worry about here. So many matches with this deck are just this, where you get to do basically whatever you want. Don't really have to worry about very much, and there isn't very much the opponent can do about it. That's why I don't understand why this deck does not get very much play. This deck should see a lot more play than it does. I don't know if it's a complexity thing, or if it's just it being miserable to play online and click through, because it definitely can be that. Um, but we're getting to the end of the game here. Animating a few starting towns, activating the Wandering Minstrel a couple of times, and then we'll go to attacks. And our opponent can block 40 damage, but we've got more than enough coming through anyways. There we go. On to the next match here. So we're shooting to see if we can get to Mythic in a perfect 24 games. I believe it was 27 games I got to Mythic in last season. One loss immediately after hitting Diamond, and which did not bump me down to Platinum. And then one loss a little bit later into Diamond that I had to make up for. So I think 27 games. Or matches rather, to hit Mythic, which is the best rate I've done, but still looking for improvement here. Against Mono Red for round 3 today, they concede to the Wandering Minstrel after not finding a way to deal with it. A lot of the time you're not dead. Opponent shouldn't really be conceding there. It does require a couple things to go right to get the turn 3 kill. You need the Crumbling Vestige and also the Scapeshift. A Lotus Field and a Scapeshift doesn't do it because you only get Scapeshift for one land, which is never going to get you to a bear. But we are feeling the pressure. This is a matchup that I've always been a little bit uncomfortable in because they come out of the gate super fast. There isn't a lot of things you can do. If they have the Reckless Rage and you have to go through a Wandering Minstrel because you don't have an Arboro Brazier, or you're on the draw and can't get Splunking down in time, then you're just toast. But luckily, opponent is playing cards like Screaming Nemesis rather than cards like Reckless Rage. So we're able to block here, take a bunch of damage, play Splunking, gain 4 more life, and then counting things up, expecting to take 10 if they add to the board. 10 is not 16, so I expect that we'll be okay to get additional lands into play for this Scapeshift to try to improve our chances at hitting a bear. Because there, if we are hitting a bear and activating a port, we're like below 30%, I think, to hit a bear off of 4 cards. So we could get 1 surveil out of it too. So we might be like 40, maybe 50, but probably 40% off of the 1 port. But here, if we're able to put 1 more land into play, then all of a sudden we're 62%. If we put another land into play, we're 70% to win. So doing everything we can to improve our expectation, doing everything we can to know the math and push towards things working out the way that we need them to work out. But yeah, and that's all she wrote. We're going to power through this one here. We just need to hit a bear off of any one of our surveils or port or rivulet, which we hit it first try. So easy does it. Baron 10 is quite likely, but Baron 1 always feels much better. And we even hit the second bear off the initial rivulet and don't need to go digging through 20 additional cards for it. But there we have it. Easy does it. Enjoy the rest, and I will